Welcome to the Immigrant Entrepreneurs Podcast, episode 29. My name is Alina Warwick, and today I'm extremely honored to bring on Igor Dobrosavljević to the show. Igor immigrated with his family from Germany as refugees with only 2 suitcases in their hands. He always wanted to come to America, and surprisingly, the civil war that broke out between Croatia and Bosnia allowed him to make that dream possible. His family was put on government assistance to obtain food stamps and allow them to get food from the local food banks. He's now the owner of an IT consulting company called Grand Consulting in Des Moines, Iowa. So let's dive right in and hear all about his journey and how he started his company in a spare bedroom. Let's go. All right, Igor, thank you so much for coming onto the Immigrant Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm truly honored to have you on this show. So how are you doing today?
Doing good. Thank you so much for inviting me.
So let's talk about your immigrant journey. Tell us where you're from and when did you come to the States?
Yeah, so my family originally is from ex-Yugoslavia. It's a little bit of a convoluted story. We've immigrated here in 1998 from Germany. Actually, we lived in Germany for 7 years as refugees. So yeah, before that, we technically lived in Bosnia when the Civil War started to work out. But we consider ourselves really from all over the place. I was born in I was born in Serbia. My parents worked in Bosnia at the time when the broke war out, but I spent my summers with my grandparents in Serbia. We also had my dad had a business in Croatia, which meant that we also spent a lot of time there. So like we were truly from all over the place, but I guess technically I'm considered a refugee from Bosnia.
Got it. And so how old were you when you came with your family?
We moved to the United States when I was 16. Yeah, a week before my 17th birthday, actually.
Wow. Awesome. Yeah. So where did you pick up English? You don't have any accent at all.
I think it was my infatuation with the United States, like through movies and just American pop culture and like comic books. And I was a super fan, I guess you would say. Mm-hmm. I really loved, the idea of like the American dream and the American pop culture and all of that. And I guess through that, I kind of picked that up, maybe through just German. Given that we lived in Germany for 7 years as refugees as well, I had to pick up German when I was 10 or 11. So maybe I didn't lose my ability to acquire a new language as soon as some others do. And so when we moved here, it wasn't all that hard to pick up English and get it firmed up a little bit better.
So what was it like growing up is it Bosnia, Germany? Where did you grow up most of your childhood?
It was weird. I consider myself one of the lucky ones. It certainly sucked that a war broke out and that we became refugees. But as I mentioned before, my dad had a business in Croatia. So we had the means to be able to leave the country when it looked like it was really not going to go well, especially for my parents. My dad was a Serbian Orthodox and my mom was Catholic. And on either side of the war, whether in Bosnia or Croatia, those were kind of the two sides that were opposing each other. And there was really no life for my mom in Serbia or for my dad in Croatia or even in Bosnia. So we kind of had to leave early on. And we were very fortunate that my mom's mom lived in Germany. So we had somebody to move to, essentially, to escape the war. And then once again, we were super fortunate that we were able to qualify as refugees for immigrant status to the United States. So while I don't want to be happy that the war happened, we really lucked out and I got the opportunity to move to the United States, which once again was like a dream. Like I had never dreamt that I'd be able to go to an American high school or college or live here. And then it happened.
And so when your parents decided to move United States, did they have family out here or was it just, the United States seems like a cool country. We're going to file papers and move.
So in Germany, if you live as a refugee in Germany, the path to get a German citizenship is almost non-existent. I'm not going to say it's impossible because there are certainly people that ended up getting German citizenship and staying, but it didn't seem like my family would be able to make Germany their long-term home. So when the war was over, Germany kind of told my family that we had to go back. And after the war, there wasn't really a place to go back to for my family. So my parents really considered actually Australia and America, because Australia also had an immigration process that we could have considered. And we certainly had some friends that had moved to Australia and enjoyed it. But I believe it was me that actually convinced my dad to make the choice to move here, because once again, I was such a fan. I even remember when I was like 15, when that whole process started, sitting down with him and saying, hey, this is my one opportunity, right? I'm going to go to high school here. I'm going to go to college and I'm going to start my business. You watch me and make sure that happens, and let's move there. And they were like, okay, yeah, I guess, it's the same to us. We got to start over wherever we go. We got to learn English. We got to learn a new language. So I believe, while it wasn't easy for me, I think it was that much harder for my parents. And I'm super grateful that they actually made that decision to move here. So
they didn't have any family, friends. They came by themselves.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that was your original question. No, so to move to the United States, you can't just buy a plane ticket and pick a city and move. You have to come in under a program. And we came under a refugee resettlement program that required you to have a sponsor in the States. And it was just, Des Moines was just a city where a bunch of people from the town that we lived in Bosnia had moved to. So my parents had friends here that had made the trek over here before them. And they were able to convince one of their friends or not convince, but they just talked to them and asked them. And they sponsored us, essentially, my family. So when we moved to the United States, we had these friends that initially help you set up everything, right? They wait for you at the airport, make sure you have housing, help you with job search and application initially. And then you're kind of on your own. But yeah, no, we had no direct relatives here when we moved.
Got it. So tell me about the struggles that you had to go through when you first immigrated.
Sure. As I mentioned earlier, I believe my parents went through greater struggles than I had, because they had to move here much later in life. They had already kind of sort of rebuilt their life in Germany once before. And now they had to kind of start over. We literally had 2 suitcases that we moved with over here. For me, I was a kid living a dream. Hey, I'm moving to the United States. I remember landing at the airport. It was like, holy cow, it's hallowed ground. I've never thought I would ever get the chance to live here. And so we did. But through my parents, I guess it was our responsibility in the beginning to be the translators with as much English as we knew at the time. So whenever there's a doctor's appointment or whenever there's a job interview, we were the ones that kind of, me and my brother were the ones that kind of helped with that. Translating mail that comes in, important insurance, important, we're the ones that needed to handle all of that. Luckily, my parents were super driven and super educated, smart people. So it didn't take them very long, a few years really, until they kind of learned the language and we're off.
So I'm assuming when you had homework problems at school, you couldn't come to your parents to ask for help.
No, but I don't know that I did that all that often. I feel like school in Germany and Europe was a lot harder than than really is here. So a lot of the subjects that I actually studied in high school here, I had already had and learned and known from just moving here. 11th, 12th grade, I went to high school here, and I felt like all the subjects that I was learning, I mainly use it to learn and get better at English, both reading and writing. And obviously they couldn't really necessarily help there. And by the time I was in college, it was just already beyond what, they would be able to help anyways. I was in computer science and all of that, and that wasn't really something they would do. So yeah, it's pretty much me and whatever friends I made here.
Yeah. So were you guys put on any government assistance programs, or were your parents able to find jobs fairly quickly?
Oh yeah, for sure. We had food stamps, and we lived on food stamps, and we were extremely happy and glad that was a investment that the U.S. made in us. It helped us out tremendously. We were able to take advantage of it while we were getting on our feet. So just a little bit of history. My dad actually in Yugoslavia was a veterinarian and a business owner, and my mom was a doctor as well, veterinarian, and worked for the government. And when they moved to Germany, they had to start at the bottom. They were in an apple sorting factory. There was literally apples going across assembly line, and they would sort them by size, and that was like the start that they had in Germany. And then my dad built it up to a construction job, and he was leading construction jobs in Germany, and then he had to start over again.
Wow.
And when they moved here, he started with pizza delivery, right? He was a pizza delivery guy for the first few months, and then he got a job in a meat packing company here in town, and then he worked his way up to, he's working as a quality assurance director now for a big meat producer here in the state. And he's essentially responsible for, like, I don't know, 20,000 pigs that get processed through that plant. And like, just all by himself. Like, okay, I guess I got to learn English, and not the same. She had to learn English, and then she went to nursing school and was doing nursing for a clinic here in town. So yeah, they worked hard to make sure that we're provided for and that they can take care of us.
Wow, what a journey. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, I remember when we came, I was 4 years old, so I was a lot younger. But the reason why I asked about, government assistance is we were on government assistance as well. And I remember going to the food bank, standing in line with my mom, with my siblings, and I thought, it's normal. I thought that's what people do. They go and get free food.
There was no shame. Like I was a little bit older. I was 16, right? And I was like the one that helped with translating and stuff like that. And like going to pick up your, food stamps and like I still pass that building on a daily here in town. Actually, my office is not actually far from there. So yeah, it's absolutely, it was just part of our journey. And once again, extremely happy that the United States made that investment in us and extended that help. And I believe like what we're doing right now and where we're at with our lives, it paid back in spades. Like it was a worthwhile investment.
Yeah, absolutely. So Igor, before you tell our listeners about your company, tell me a little bit about the path you took. Did you try to go into any other fields before starting your business?
No, actually, I feel like I hear a lot of people like struggle with not knowing what to do in life and what career paths to take. But like when I was super young, I was into computers and video games, and my first computer was a Commodore 64 back in the early 90s. And it was just something that I was always into. And because I was a refugee initially, I didn't have many opportunities to pursue that. I did get my first computer in Germany, and it was mostly being used for like video games and things like that. But when I moved to the United States, I lucked out. I met a guy that was kind of a IT consultant that was running a company out of his house. And his name was Greg Iwi. And he hired me as my junior year, my 1 year in to living here. I got a part-time job helping him manage his clients, right? Installations, server upgrades, essentially a lot of the things that I'm doing right now, I started learning through him. I worked for him for 4 or 5 years through part of my college career. And then from there on, everything was kind of set. Everything kind of developed from that. So I don't know that I've ever considered really doing anything else. So
Okay. So did you say you went to school and studied computer science?
I did. So I was here my 11th and 12th grade in high school, and we had moved so much that I never considered really moving out of state or away from my parents initially to go to college. But I still wanted sort of the college experience. So a private school here in Des Moines, Drake University, was just like, well, you seem like a smart guy, here's a bunch of money and we'll enroll you here. And I was like, okay, fine. It's in town. I could still sort of live with my parents and save on like living expenses and food and things like that if I'm in town, and I can still get like the college experience. So why not? So yeah, Drake University, I started in 2000 and graduated in 2004 with bachelor's in computer science and minor in math and business. And yeah.
So when you mentioned you got that experience from that one guy initially, was that out of college or out of high school?
No, that was in high school.
High school.
Yeah. That my senior year, we kind of met him. I was, wanting to build my computer and like I could learn something from him initially, and we kind of met. And he's like, "Hey, you seem like you might be interested in this sort of work. Would you mind, helping me out on jobs and projects and things like that?" I was like, What? Yes, I would love to. And what do you mean you're gonna pay me that much? Like that's the most paid high school job I've ever heard of. And so yeah, he hired me and I worked for him through high school and then part through college.
Awesome. Awesome. So then after college, where did you go?
So after college, this education actually led directly into it. Greg had several clients, and one of those clients was actually starting an IT business in addition to what they were doing already, which is installing phone systems and running low voltage cabling around, schools and government buildings and things like that. And they wanted to get into providing IT services for companies. So they started a division that would do that. And they kind of knew me from before and the work that I did for them. And this opportunity came as I was graduating, and they asked me if I wanted to be their lead tech on that side. And I said yes. And so, yeah, out of college, I got hired by that company and I helped them kind of grow that division.
Okay. So I'm tracking along. So at what point did you create Grand Consulting? At what point did you work for that company? Was it during that company that you were working for, or tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. So as I mentioned before, I like the drive to own my own company was always there, like even before we moved here. So like that was always going to happen. I had initially hoped that like I would maybe become a partner in this company, or that they'd be, willing to share some of that ownership structure as the company grew and as I was helping them grow. But that wasn't really materializing. So for about 4 years into working for this other company, I was starting to feel the itch. I was starting to see the knowledge that I have and that I was contributing to this company. And I said, heck, I can do this on my own, right? I should start investing in myself instead of this other company. So 4 years in, 2008, I gave my resignation. I incorporated a company and I opened my phones out of my spare bedroom, actually, in the house that I was living in at the time.
You opened what?
Opened my phones and started the business out of my bedroom, essentially a spare bedroom. That's where Grand Consulting's first offices were, in the house that I was actually living at the time.
Okay. So how old were you when you started Grand Consulting?
So let's see. I don't keep it in terms like that. It was 2008, so 12 years ago. I'm 39 now, so 27. 27 is when I started Grand Consulting.
Okay. And so you quit. Did you have any savings, or you kind of just quit and said, I'm going to do this by myself and we'll see what happens?
I did have some savings, but I was also not married at the time. I didn't have children at the time. Really, my expenses were very low. So I could take that risk at the time. There wasn't really like, if it went south, it wasn't going to be like my family or my children that would suffer. And I figured I had a skill set that if things weren't working out, I could always just, be hired by somebody else. So I don't know. I don't remember. Maybe at the time there was, but I don't really remember being angsty about not succeeding. I don't know that I was necessarily really afraid of just trying and failing. In fact, I actually, looking back, I wish I had tried and failed sooner, right? I don't know that Drake necessarily contributed anything to my path going forward, other than I'm able to say that I lived that American dream of high school, college, starting your own business. But I don't know, like, if that money spent would have been better spent on me trying something and failing and learning my lessons then. But hindsight is 2020.
Yeah, but 27 years old starting your company, that's still fairly young. So
sure.
Yeah, so that's
never too late. It's never too late.
Hey, 27. That's not when you say it's never too late.
Yeah.
50 and above, that's when you say it's never too late.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So that was still a success at 27 years old.
Sure.
So you got to tell us a little bit more about Grand Consulting. What do you guys do?
Sure. So we are a IT consulting company, and we essentially are a outsource IT department for a small business. So our ideal client is anywhere between, 10 and 50 clients. And if you can't afford a full-time IT person, or if it doesn't make sense for you to have a full-time IT person on staff to take care of your computers, but your computers are still super valuable tools that you use to make money in your business, we are your guys and girls, and we would love to take care of your technology. So from computers to helping figure out internet connectivity to networking infrastructure to phones, to anything that technology in a business touches and that you don't have a dedicated go-to person for, we can take care of you. We kind of got into a niche with dentists early on. So in the early 2004s, early 2000s, mid 2000s, there was this big push for dentists to go paperless. Most of dentists at the time kept like paper schedules and paper files for your charts and all of that. And so around that time, there was this big push of companies coming out with electronic versions of programs that could replace that and that could grow that. And computers made their move into your operatory. So I don't know, like if you go to your dentist and if you like, they have a monitor behind them and a monitor in front of you, and they like take intraoral x-rays and digital x-rays. We're the guys that actually implement that for them and manage and troubleshoot when there's issues and upgrade and things like that. From there, we don't exclusively restrict ourselves to dental clients, but from there, any industry that kind of relies on computers and technology for day-to-day business, we can take care of. So we have attorneys and we have accountants, actually a couple of big accounting groups here in town. We have construction companies that we can take care of. Really, these days, what business industry can't you describe as needing computers to do business? But yeah, that's kind of how we started in our niche and how it grew.
Wow, that's amazing. I've never heard of that business model, and that's awesome. So I have lots of questions now.
Sure, go.
So are you guys serving your clients locally, or is this nationwide?
Sure.
What industry are you guys in?
So we do our best work if we can see our customer occasionally. A lot of our work can be done remotely, but really to provide the best experience, it does help for us to be able to go on site and troubleshoot problems that we can't troubleshoot remotely. Most of our work can be done remotely over the phone. That's kind of what I do a lot of the time. But if there's like new hardware that needs to be installed or upgraded or replaced, it helps to be local. Currently, our business is restricted to central Iowa, with most of our clients being in central Iowa, but we do have clients all over the state as well. We don't prefer to take on those clients just yet, just because our customer experience is super important to us, like how we do business, and we sort of have a reputation for a personality and quality work that we have. And it is kind of hard to kind of scale that out, but we're happy with the clientele that we have locally here in Iowa. So yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. And so are you guys available 24/7 for all those IT problems and issues late at night?
So we like to say yes, but really it's whatever our client needs. And most of our clients have kind of like the 8 to 5 work days. So if a dentist, right, is not seeing patients or not in the office, they're going to not need our help, or a accountant or attorney. Or so we work the hours that our clients need us to work. Luckily, it kind of works out that it's mostly during normal business hours, but we do after hours work and weekends. So sometimes there's a big server upgrade that needs to happen, obviously, and they need to be, it'll take us like it's a 2-day process. Obviously, we can't shut them down for 2 days, so a weekend gets scheduled. After hours, I've spent some after hours working on client stuff when it's failed during the day and it was just big outage that we needed to recover from as soon as possible. So, we've had our after hours, but typically phone calls and expectations are that we're available from, 8 to 5.
So, and what about cybersecurity? I know it's really, really big and popular these days. Do you guys offer that too?
So that's a really tricky question, because we also have clients that come and say, hey, would you take care of our cybersecurity? But we don't consider it as a separate field necessarily. We consider it as just part of taking care of somebody's computers. It's bad guys are out there. They're going to target you. They're going to try and get into your network. We try to develop and design and maintain our networks so that cyber threats are minimized. One thing we do tell our clients is that there's nothing that you can pay us for, or no product that you can implement that will eliminate a cyber threat. If something like that existed, cyber threats would not exist. If you want to be completely secure, cancel your internet subscription and do your business offline, and you're going to be set. Trust me. As soon as you connect any system to the internet, you have to be vigilant. You have to be careful. So while there's a lot of things that can be implemented on a network to mitigate some security risks, we tell our clients, expect something to happen, right? Something bad will happen. What you are hiring us to do is to have a plan in place that when something happens, if something happens, the threat is mitigated. So damage done to your network is at an absolute minimum. And there's a plan in place for quick recovery so that your business isn't as impacted. And it's served us well. When a client initially, when crypto viruses weren't a thing, when that started happening, when a client would get hit, we would have systems and processes in place where we could roll that pretty quickly back and they'd be back in business really quick, not necessarily even missing a beat. So I would say we were also pretty lucky that we have pretty good clients that listen to us and that implement things the way we asked them. I don't know. I'm sure if we had a bad client that wasn't listening to anything we say, it'd be a different story. But yeah, cybersecurity is kind of baked into, everything we do. So
those Russian hackers better watch out.
Sure. I mean, if there was somebody that set their sights on a business that we took care of, there'd be very little from, I mean, there's Sony. I don't know. I always bring this up, but Sony, who's got millions in dollars in budget just for security, were shut down for days by a motivated threat actor, right? So if somebody's motivated enough and has enough resources, they're going to figure out a way to do harm and damage to you. But I hope that we have enough stuff implemented within our networks and our clients' networks that minimize that and that mitigate it. And so far, it's come through true, and we've been, our clients have been pretty happy. So.
Awesome. I love it. So Igor, where do you think you got your entrepreneurial drive? Now, I know you've mentioned several times that you've always wanted to own your business, but where do you think that spark initially started from?
Probably my dad.
Your dad?
Yeah. As I mentioned before, he owned his own business, and I always looked up to him and how he did his work and what he was able to do for us with his running his business. And so, yeah, I probably just wanted to emulate him. And once again, American pop culture is rife with the self-made man story, right? So if you like America and you buy the story, right? You come here, you work super hard, you start your own business, and you're rich, right?
Yes, overnight.
Right. That's how it works.
So I know you mentioned that you didn't have to raise a lot of capital to start your business, but did you have to raise any capital at all?
No, it was really bootstrapped. My business was also service-based business, so it's kind of hard to raise capital based on, it's just your brand and it's just you, and it's a service-based business. It wasn't really necessarily a revolutionary product that we were coming up with or bringing onto the market. It was, a small business. We're no different than a plumber or an electrician, right? We provide a service, and the quality of work depends on the quality of work that we provide and us. Really, the only financing that I would have been able to raise at the time might have been a bank loan. But like I said, my initial capital requirements weren't all that great, and I was lucky to, have my name out there in Des Moines. People knew of me and the quality of work that I gave, and when I went out on my own, people searched me out, and we got clients pretty fast. And then just through word of mouth and quality of work, the company grew, and here we are today. So yeah, not much capital that I needed to raise.
So when you said that you started getting clients immediately, so you quit, you started your company at your house, and you started receiving, traction from the beginning stages. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. So like I said, we kind of got into that niche of doing dentist offices. And at the time, my number wasn't really listed. This was back in 2008 when people still used phone books. So my phone number wasn't really necessarily listed anywhere, but my parents was. So this curious thing started happening where people that were looking for me called my parents' house and were asking for my contact info because they wanted me to do some work for them. So inadvertently, my parents initially had to start taking calls for me and passing them on to me because people didn't have any other contact info for me. But yeah, that's sort of how it started. Just Des Moines is not that big of a town. It's around 300 to 500,000 people, and it sounds maybe big, but it's really not. And word of mouth here travels really fast. So especially dentists, right? dentists here know each other. There's only so many dentist companies dentist offices you can have in a town this size. And so like they start talking to each other and, hey, who are you using? And, what are you happy with their services? And then they give them my name, and then it just kind of grows from there.
So are you listed in the phone book now?
No, actually, no. I don't know anybody that, first of all, I don't want the pollution. But then again, second of all, I don't, who looks in the phone book these days?
Probably seniors. I don't know.
Maybe they're not our target market. Okay, let me put it this way. If you take a phone book and flip and want our services, you are probably not the greatest fit for us. Like, we need you to do some research. We need you to want to work with us because you heard that we do good work, and not just some random person in a phone book that you think may be able to help you.
Yeah. No, I've heard some really amazing stories that come out of phone books. So
I believe you. I just don't consider myself all that lucky.
All right, Igor. So I really wanted to know, did you have any mentors that helped you out to start your business?
Many, actually. Absolutely. So first of all, yeah, Greg was an absolutely amazing mentor. He not only taught me the ropes of what it means to be a system administrator for an IT infrastructure, but also like how to run your business and what's required to run a business. So definitely the early years of Grant Consulting were kind of modeled after what Greg had been doing when I started working with him. Unfortunately, at the time, he had already passed away, so he wasn't really around to like see me start the business and grow it into anything. But yeah, I definitely give a lot of credit to Greg. Along the way, there was a lot of I was a little bit involved in the startup community here in Des Moines. So when the whole social media thing from Twitter to Facebook started up, technology and startup minded people kind of connected through social media. So there was like tweet-ups and other companies that were, starting their own companies. I kind of got involved, and there was mentors in that arena too. Tej, who's to this day an invaluable mentor. And if I need any advice, I reach out to him and ask him. And my parents, for sure, just knowing everything that they've gone through and that they've had to do to be here where they are today. If I had half the energy of my parents have gone through and done, I would be super happy. So yeah, I'm standing on shoulders of giants, really.
Yeah. Awesome. So are you connected to any entrepreneur groups, organizations?
I'm not really. No. And I think that's just on me. I'm really bad at like mingling and reaching out to people just because. I focus a lot just on the work and the quality of service that we deliver, and just mentoring just employees that we hire a lot more than going out and making connections, mostly because they haven't worked for me. And I'm not saying that they're not a way for some to gain new business or grow the mentorship circle. They just have never worked for me, and it might be just because I'm just bad at that. But yeah, it's been always just focus on employees and people around that kind of form natural connections with me for being member of some sort of organization.
Got it. Well, whenever you're ready, you might want to check out the phone book. You might find some awesome mentors.
Yes, let's break out the phone book.
So I'm really interested to know, how do you look at failures and how do you overcome them?
When we talk about failures, we got to talk about successes too, right? Because that's the other side of that. But I don't necessarily consider myself like I've succeeded in anything yet, right? And I don't necessarily completely consider myself like I've failed at anything, right? Maybe if I had lost and went bankrupt a couple of times, I would consider those failures. But like I said, this is my first business, and I'm still running it 12 years ago and growing it. And I guess you could sort of consider that a success. So I haven't had to start over. Maybe I like to think of it as like just bad decisions. And I've certainly made a lot of bad decisions along the way. And I don't know that I would want to change them because they make me what I am today. So I've certainly had some partners that did not work out so great, not necessarily because of something they did or didn't do, but more so I figured out late in life that your partner has to fit in with you and needs to be compatible with you and needs to complement you in some sort of way. If you don't have the same goals, if you don't grow in the same direction, it's sort of like a marriage, really. Different kind of marriage. My partner Kai, I call him work husband, because we spend so much time together and we happen to have grown in the same direction and complement each other a lot, that like it requires that. So bad decisions, I don't know. I embrace them because they are required for growth. If you don't fail or if you don't make bad decisions, there's no room for you to learn anything. You're just lucky. And I guess I wish I was lucky all the time and didn't have to learn anything. But it's just part of growing that business. It's just you have to fail and just be willing to learn. And as long as you succeed 51% of the time, you're ahead.
I love that. 51% of the time success rate. You're pushing forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's refreshing to hear. So let's switch gears and talk about successes. Are there any successes that you would like to outline from your immigrant entrepreneur journey?
Sure. As I mentioned earlier, I don't consider myself necessarily successful. While I am extremely happy with what I have achieved so far and where I was able to get, I don't know. So success sounds like it's final, right? You're done. When like tomorrow it can be taken away from you. Tomorrow something can happen where you're sued out of existence, or some sort of mistake that you've made inadvertently costs you a lot of business and you have to shut down. So like while today's snapshot looks like I'm happy, I don't know what brings tomorrow. One thing that I am proud of though is I wanted to open up opportunities in the IT field to others, especially others that don't necessarily look like me. The IT field is full of just white guys. And I feel like it's pretty easy to be successful in the IT field. A lot of doors are open for you if you're a white guy. So I started this apprenticeship program under Crane Consulting, where we want to open up doors to people into the IT field that otherwise wouldn't have maybe been able to make that journey. So we don't necessarily require a college degree for you to start to work for us. You just need a high school diploma, need to be able to drive, and are willing to learn. As long as you are willing to learn, we will teach you everything you need to know about the IT field. You just need to be nice to people. You need to be able to handle people, because it is a customer service job. It's actually more so a customer service job than an IT job, because the skills that are hard to teach, like customer service and how to deal with customers, are the keys in success for us. Everything else, I will teach you. If you have IT questions, ask me. I will Google things for you. I will look up stuff on YouTube for you if I don't know the answer to. But so with that IT apprenticeship that we started 3 years ago, we had one gentleman, his name is Halil, who was also a refugee from Bosnia, who was working in customer service at a grocery chain here. No prior IT experience, wanted to get into IT. We hired him as the first IT apprentice here, and he's finished the program. It's a 3-year program that we have. He's finished the program, and now he's handling projects that are absolutely mind-boggling. Like the conversations that I have with them, that talking about servers and network infrastructure and things like that, things that he had no knowledge prior to going through this process, he's able to accomplish and get done. We have a new apprentice in the spot. Her name is Jan. She's a woman, and there wasn't many women in the field, and we're hoping that she's just going to be just as a success as Halil was. And she seems to be well on her way. She's been with us for about 6 months. She's got another 2.5 years in front of her. But yeah, she's making all the same progress that he has at the time. And if I succeed in opening up doors to the IT field for people that otherwise wouldn't have been able to get into it, I'd consider myself lucky and happy.
Wow, that's amazing. And then it'll also open the doors for people that want to change careers, right? Like people that have been in business and want to go into the IT field. Well, sometimes they'll go get their certificates and they'll get their education, but then a lot of companies are like, well, where's your experience at? Well, right. So I think that program is absolutely amazing. And what you guys are going to be doing with that is powerful. So
that's the idea. That's the essential idea. Part of it came from my experience from just living in Germany, because in Germany, when you go to school, the apprenticeship is absolutely a viable track for business, for the future that you can pick. It seems like the United States is limited to just one track, right? It's just like you graduate high school, you go to college, and then you get a high-paying job at a company somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what about people that can't afford college or don't have the opportunity to go to college or that have to start earning to support their family before they can graduate to college, that can't, get financing, that don't want to get into debt? It seems very limiting. So inspired by like the things that I've seen and learned in Germany, we also want to serve as sort of an example. If a company our size can successfully start an IT apprenticeship and bring people into the field that otherwise wouldn't have, I'm hoping that down the road, many industries will look at this example and kind of effectuate the same thing. A lot of careers don't require a college degree. A lot of careers can be apprenticed. It just feels like it has a bad rep. Apprenticeship is, associated with manual labor like plumbing and electrical work and HVAC. People can make a ton of money doing that sort of work. I don't know why anybody would dismiss a job like that. But IT is like that, right? We can teach the job, we can show people how to do it, and then have them grow from there. I'm hoping that a lot of other industries can kind of take that example and do the same.
Yeah, you're going to be the leading example.
Sure.
I love it. And so is giving back, either volunteering time or giving back to the community, something that is part of your business values?
Sure, absolutely. So like that, apprenticeship is one of the examples that we feel like we can actually effectuate and give back to the community. So yeah, we have, as part of our compensation program at the company, we allow our employees to take paid time off to volunteer. So volunteer time off, they can volunteer in the community. My wife is on the board for Habitat for Humanity, and my wife's family actually was one of the recipients of those houses back in the day as well. So extremely important to give back to your community and be part of it as much as possible.
Well, yeah, you're giving back in so many ways, and especially with the apprentice program that you have, it's so powerful and it speaks volumes in your industry. So that's awesome. So Igor, what are some things that you would advise the next aspiring immigrant that wants to start their own business listening to you right now?
Very good question.
This is deep.
Yes, it's super deep. I don't know that I'd give any other answer than that's been given before, and that's just to try. And I suspect a lot of people are being held back by failure, to not be afraid of failure. Now, there's sometimes legitimate reasons why somebody shouldn't start a business. And I will say it, not necessarily for everybody. Risking your family's livelihood is definitely a hard calculation that somebody has to make. But the one thing that anybody that started a successful business has in common is that they just believed in themselves and the path that they took. And if you don't listen to that voice, you're not necessarily going to get really anywhere. So yeah, just believe in yourself, do good work, and good things can happen.
Such powerful advice. Thank you. Thank you so much. So I want to wrap up with some super fast questions, if that's okay with you.
Sure. Yeah,
okay. Sure. What time do you normally start your day?
With kids, it's usually around 7 a.m. We try and help with school. And this year it's been different, obviously. They've done a bunch of virtual learning and things like that. But yeah, around 7 a.m. I'm a late sleeper. I go to bed really late. I'm better late than in the morning. So oftentimes I'm not in bed until like 1 a.m. If I go to bed at like midnight, that's early for me.
All right. So how many employees do you have?
So currently we have 7 full-time employees and 1 part-time and a couple of contractors that we contract work out for different types of things.
How often do you watch TV in a week?
TV in a week?
Yes.
I'd say I play video games more than I watch TV. I watch TV with my kids. I like watching shows with my kids, and we sort of bond over that. So like the Airbender and Last Kids on Earth and Gravity Falls sort of shows. Yeah, I enjoy that time together with them.
And then the last one is, how many hours of work do you normally put in, say, in a week?
Good question. 60, 50, 60?
Oh, okay. Yeah, not bad.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah. The problem is it doesn't feel like work when you do the thing that you love. But yeah, around 50, 60. We try to have a healthy balance of work life. If I miss my children's upbringing and growing up, I know that later in life I'm probably gonna regret it. And I feel like, yes, maybe I could grow my business a lot more, a lot faster if I put in a lot more work into it. But I'm happy with where we're at right now, and I'm happy the path that we're on. I don't know that I'm the best example of amassing as much money as possible, as fast as possible. As long as there's growth, and as long as we can get new clients on board, and we can hire and start working with new talented people, we're happy. So like if this amount of work gets me there, and I get to enjoy my kids growing up and raise them with my wife, then yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Work-life balance is so important. So good stuff. Good stuff. All right, Igor. Well, hey, thank you so much for coming on to the Immigrant Entrepreneurs podcast and sharing your amazing journey coming from a refugee to a business owner and an immigrant. So you've got lots of successes. Don't fall yourself short. And you are extremely innovative, and you're doing some powerful things in the IT field. So, hey, again, thank you so much. I'm truly honored to share your story.
Thank you so much for having me. This was super fun.
Alrighty, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. I just wanted to ask for a quick favor if you could please leave a rating wherever you're at listening to this podcast on whatever platform you're on. Also, if you're an immigrant entrepreneur and would love to be on my podcast, please email me and we'll get connected. I'll see you guys all next time for another exciting and impactful episode. Take care.